I will hand you now over to Greg, who will read for us our recent locution.
Thank you, Father. Yes, we will continue with the recent number 5 of 11 locution from February 5th, 2023. Jesus. Days flow past you in your time on earth. Each day you consume more time. I feel the most enormous gratitude for those who use their time thoughtfully on earth. I feel the most wonderful energy, which I share, in those who are busy helping me to comfort and console God's children in any way. Comfort and consolation for all was my goal. Love for all, regardless of their condition. Did I make that clear in my lifetime? I know that I did. Sharing my way with others offered my apostles freedom and relief. They were set free from the rigidity of prescriptive religion that often rejected them for non-spiritual reasons. When my church communicates conditional love and claims to represent me, it fails. It is not my church acting. Therefore, you will not find me in those actions. You will always, however, find me in the perfection of the sacramental graces. You will find me in the Eucharist. My gratitude remains magnificent to the faithful priesthood who strive to be compassionate as I was compassionate. My gratitude remains magnificent to the faithful lay people and religious who also strive to be compassionate as I was compassionate. You will all experience my gratitude in the answer to your prayers for greater holiness, and your prayers for your families and temporal needs. This reciprocity of relationship will never change. When you come to heaven, you will see how grateful I was in each moment where you tried. You will see I was with you as you struggled to change, as you tried to control uncharitable actions and thoughts, and when you searched for me in moments of distress and trial. You will see that I was there, and you will feel joy in your contribution to the representation of God's true thoughts and thinking on earth during your time. My friends, my beloved friends, you are suffering each other at times, it is true. You endure those who insist on disunity. They will not humble themselves enough to identify me in the present time, even though their time on earth is short. Most of our church history will not include them, except as insignificant elements of a rebellious movement which sought to gain power over me. Imagine, who will prevail? I urge you to avoid any movement that prioritizes disunity under any issue. I urge you to allow me, please, to reclaim and renew my church the way I wish to, in love and humility. Your task, given to you from me personally, is to ensure that you are communicating me accurately to others. My spirit, my love, my heart, which always gathers, never scatters. You should not try to be me. You should try to represent me. Peace, and more peace be with you during this time of renewal. Again, that was the 5th of 11 most recent locutions from February 5th, 2023. And with that, I'll pass it back to Father. Do we have Anne with us today?
We don't have Anne with us today, guys, not in the live forum. However, we do have Anne with us digitally in the form of a video. Now, some of you at least were perhaps I know some of you were at our events live the couple of weeks ago in California, and then some of you were there on our Zoom call, which really was great to be there. Of course, I was there via Zoom as well in at the one event that we had with John and Elena. And it just goes to show how beneficial that can be. And I found it was like I was there, and certainly benefited from being on the Zoom call. So many of you, however, were not. So for those who were there, this is a second opportunity to digest further the talk that Anne gave whilst she was there. And for those of us who were not there, an opportunity to hear it for the first time. So for today, we will have that now. And James is going to share the video now.
You know, I believe that we, Faustina, suffered so much to haul back divine mercy out from heaven into the world, into the time and space. But I don't think we've unpacked it. I don't think we've begun to unpack divine mercy. And this apostolate, I pray, is a continuation of that craving that Jesus has for people to accept his mercy. And for us to understand that mercy is available for everyone. Now, the Catholic Church is a universal family started by Christ. It includes every person in the world. You and I are chosen not with the isolated priority of mastering teachings. We are chosen and formed to be guardians of the presence of God on earth, the Eucharist. That's our role. You and I will do that imperfectly. We will make mistakes. We will come and go in the teachings, maybe come and go in faith practice. How many have come and gone? I'm not asking for hands. I bet there's quite a number here who have left the church for a week or a month or 10 years, and possibly return to it. And you know, statistics tell us that when people return to faith practice, they don't start by going to confession. They start by wandering into a mass, tired of being unloved in the world, and then they watch everyone go up to communion. And you know what they do if they're really brave? They just get in line and go. That's what's happening. I'm not saying, oh, it's good or it's bad. I'm saying that's what is. And I wonder to myself, how does Jesus receive someone who comes in after suffering from loneliness and brokenness and empty promises and finds a church and thinks, I don't know, I used to feel okay in there. I'm going to try it. I'm going to walk in. And then something about Jesus in the Eucharist is magnetic to them. And they think, maybe that love is there for me too. Is it possible? And they receive communion. And then they might do that for 6 months or a year or two. And then they might say, I better go to confession. Now, does this sound familiar to anyone here? And you can raise your hand. Okay. That's the way this happens in most cases. We can like it. We can dislike it. We can make judgments about those people. But, my friends, we are those people. So who needs mercy? When you pray, do you benevolently offer God mercy, or does God benevolently offer it to you? We know the answer. Mercy, heaven. It's a one-way door. It comes out from heaven to us. God has no need of our mercy, my friends. He needs our love, our fidelity, our humility. Mercy comes to you through a one-way door from God. And what is his hope in offering you mercy? His great hope is that you will accept it and seek to understand that the mercy he offers you is complete. He is not offering you a partial gift. He is offering you total mercy, understanding, compassion, and love. And then his hope is that you will receive it and bring it out to everybody else. My friends, our friends in the world will come and go in their faith. If we could think of the church as an area of light in the world, radiating out from the presence of God on earth in the Eucharist, creating areas of light, and people will come and go. There are no bars, there are no locks, there are no big walls. It's just an open space and a constant, ongoing, pulsing invitation. Come back and be loved. Come back and be loved. Come back and be loved. That is the message that we are charged with bringing to others. I really think most people know where they're getting it wrong. Would you agree? Generally, most people have this understanding, yeah, I'm falling down on the job a little bit here or there. You know, there's things I could do. Inviting them into practice or back into the church is inviting them into divine mercy, not human mercy. Divine mercy, complete mercy, like the mercy you receive from God all the time, every day. So I like to think that a great renewal is taking place. It's one of the earliest messages of this apostolate. The renewal taking place has a need. It needs to happen in your heart. Your heart needs to be renewed. It needs to accept divine mercy, which is complete, and then let it push out and be offered to everybody around you. St. Francis is known to have said, today let's preach the gospel. Only talk if you have to. Mercy is alive, it's living, it's a grace, it's intelligent. If you will allow God to renew your heart and take away all judgments, all knowing about other people, we can't begin to know the wounds of another. It's the same way they can't begin to know our wounds. If you've been married to someone 40 years, you still don't know everything there is to know about them. And you shouldn't presume that you do, or treat them like you're just a book I've read before. The relationship between husband and wife, because it's so close, requires the greatest mercy and reverence. Familiarity should breed reverence, never contempt. It's like in marriage, in all families, the first rule should be like doctors: first, do no harm with your words and, of course, your actions. Divine mercy in a marriage is somebody overlooking someone else's imperfections. Someone acknowledging, I've got my flaws too, and so do you, and here we are together, and God's craving love from the heart of my spouse. Christ in my spouse is craving love. Am I willing to love Jesus in the heart of my spouse? I see sometimes in marriages just astonishing contempt. Thinly veiled or barely concealed or open. And I think whatever the issues are, there's no way you're getting away with that from the next world. You'll be looking at that and you won't like the look. So, my husband always says, nobody gets away with anything. Just remember that. And I remember that for myself. I'm not going to get away with anything. I don't want to. Living in the truth is living in freedom. So I think as a Catholic faith, my prayer to God is that we will start understanding better divine mercy and understanding more that restricting communion from with broad strokes will never be the right application of mercy. Why is it important that we know that? Because we need renewal in our heart so that when people look at our eyes, they see love and they do not see judgment about things. You know, if you take it this, let me ask you this question. Who should evaluate whether or not a communion is sacrilegious? Me or God? Only God. Now, when people are really attached to the rules and regs, as opposed to the mercy, they are parameters. I mean, and the issues I'm discussing with you are pastoral issues. These aren't dogmatic issues. The bishops are doing a really good job, despite the fact that we are mimicking the world when we politicize our faith. Okay? What I see the bishops doing is wrestling it down, disagreeing. Courageous ones are saying, I don't think I agree with any of you. You know, there are a lot of great thinkers in our church. I like to think I'm a thinker in our church. I'm staring at it for 20 years, wondering why they keep leaving. The church is for the whole world. You and I are closer to my mouth, John? Okay. If you start to have trouble hearing me, put your hands up. Okay? If you have trouble on Zoom, you just have to put your hand up and I'll be careful more. Okay, so you're bringing someone into the faith. Someone who's had no, you know, we don't even understand how blessed we are to have an operating system installed by second grade. We are so lucky, so blessed. People died so that you and I, they gave their whole lives, priests and nuns, good ones, so that we would have the faith. Were there mistakes made? Yes. Are there mistakes made in every family? You bet. Did we start to expose criminal behavior amongst the clergy? Yeah, we did. That was a good thing. That was a good thing that happened in the sense that we have to say, it's terrible. We got to take care of any victims. Thank God it's out in the open. And how beautiful is the church going to be when everyone understands boundaries and is formed in the faith, as part of the faith, to know what are your sexual boundaries? Why is pornography bad for you? What rights do you have in terms of what makes you uncomfortable and what makes you comfortable? You know, we're teaching that in our apostolate. It's built into our formation. People need to know this so they can make moral, virtuous choices. A lot of people don't. Now, back to the church as the home of God present on earth. Bringing someone into the faith can be tough. Have you ever wondered about it? Like someone knows nothing. I have. And I thought, should we say, now join us and we'll give you a list of everything that's a sin. Now, we disagree on this. Everyone's going to give you a different answer. But, you know, generally, here's my list. And here's, you know, if you, you know what I mean. Or should we say, we believe we are the guardians and protectors of the presence of Jesus Christ on the planet. And you look really good, and we would really like it if you would help us. Because we need people like you who are willing to show up for Mass, help protect the priests, keep the churches open, make sure everyone knows their boundaries, teach them human formation so that spiritually they feel like they fit in the church. Have you ever wondered if it was just too hard to be a Catholic? Like, you know, like, have you ever thought, I'm just not a good one? I'm just not really good at this. I think there's a shared experience of many people that are outside of our faith who say, someday I'm going to get my act together and be good enough to go back to church. And that breaks my heart because they belong with us and they're smoking us in some areas. They're doing better than us in some areas. Let's tell the truth. Despite, our disdain for them at times. Now, you're sitting here and you're thinking, Ann, I love people. I'm so good to people. I'm not mean to people. I want them back too. And I know that that's true about you. I know that's true about you. So then what we need is a how-to. How to evangelize in a way that doesn't make people overwhelmed by the thought of returning to the sacraments. I'll tell you, when we were drafting our statutes for our canonical association, the Apostolate of the Returning King, there was a little phrase that I insisted on, and it meant everything to me. And it said that we follow the guidelines as best we can. Because I didn't want somebody thinking, I can't get to some people say, I can never go to confession again after what happened to me. Have you ever heard of that? I sure have, a lot. And we work on, you just have to have a way of helping them to understand boundaries. That they have a right to say, I don't want to talk about this anymore. That's enough for me. So we need a way. So what would be the most helpful thing? Okay. I think part of the reason why we've lost a lot of people is because we have lost the beauty of mysticism. Our mystical experiences. And people in the church have said, no, don't talk about mysticism because people get the wrong idea. But if you don't talk about mysticism, people get the wrong idea about our religion. And it can be too much religion and not enough spirit. And what do you have then? Unhappy folk and Pharisee behavior. Jesus Christ came because his Father didn't like what people were doing with religion. They weren't representing God accurately. So Christ came to show us how to do it. And I'll give you an example because there's a lot of sexual sin seems to take up a lot of real estate. And it's almost like the same as the world, only in a weird flip side, People will make sexual mistakes, for sure. Think about Jesus when they were stoning the woman for adultery. He's there. They're going to stone her. She's been caught allegedly in the act. And they're about to stone her. Where do you see Jesus directing his tenderness? At her. He is all tenderness at her. It's almost like he's looking at the people and he's saying, drop your stones. Drop your stones. You're going to have to go through me to get to her. And it's not happening today. And there's discussion about how that was communicated to the people because they kind of slithered away, didn't they? They dropped their stones. And then he said, where are they? Where are they? I guess you're not that dissimilar from them. I think divine mercy would be that we in the church would drop our stones and start talking about divine mercy like we meant it, like we had a bit of confidence in God's love for us. It's a funky world. It's really upside down. We're seeing things that don't even make sense. And so you're trying to make sense out of that, and then we're trying to hold our position, for our kids to say, there is wrong and there is right, and that is objective. It's not about opinions. There is right and there is wrong. But there is also mercy and grace and repentance and sorrow And our Catholic teachings are about being protected and safer during our human experience. But people often have to learn, yes? They have to learn about why our teachings are good by making mistakes and getting hurt. Isn't that true? Didn't you come to conclusions based on getting hurt by making mistakes and departing from the teachings and saying, well, I really got that one now? You know, people will make mistakes. So, mysticism. We're teaching contemplative prayer as fast as we can, as much as we can, because, my friends, those of you who have been around a while know that I've been saying the battleground is in the mind. The battleground for God's children is being fought in the mind by the enemy of peace. And it's a relentless, systematic battle to hijack our minds and the minds of our children. There are some situations with schools where I think you couldn't put your child in there. You couldn't, because you can't control what's happening to their minds. And then people can't afford Catholic schools either. Isn't that true? I mean, that's another thing. So mom and dad have to be on their game to protect the formation of the children. The battleground is being fought in the mind. But if someone doesn't know there's a war being waged, how likely are they to be successful in the battle? They're not. So contemplative prayer is protecting your ability for direct communication with God. That's what we're trying to do.
And as we come to the end of our call here together, we know, of course, there's lots of food for thought there in the video, and I'm glad to be watching it again. So much to benefit from watching it again. But I want to thank most especially in the call here today, John and Elena. And I want to thank Nellie and Carmen. I think you're all here. And I want to thank Pam, all who make these events possible. And of course, I was only thinking this morning about people who work in the church, work in parishes, who volunteer for all these various things. It can be so important for us to ask ourselves about our motivation, why we do what we do. I was thinking this in the context of a parish, actually, but it applies all over the place. We'd want to say, I do what I do for Jesus Christ, because I know him, I love him, and I want to serve him. And what I do for Christ. And that is so important. And all we do for Jesus Christ. And so we remind ourselves of that. And to him we go. And he gives us his gratitude as well, of course, in spades, because he is grateful to us, as we will find if we read volume 10. He speaks of his gratitude and that he's willing and desires to give us an insight into it. But nonetheless, we, however, say our thanks to you guys who made those events possible and who are making all kinds of things possible in this apostolate. So we'll conclude our meeting at this point. We're just over by 5 or so minutes, and I know some of you are leaving because you have to go into your work or into your beds because of the time of day it is for you. So whatever it is, God bless you. Thank you for being with us. And as always, we will leave the room open now for anybody who wants to remain on and have a chat and meet with each other. So God bless you all, and thank you for being here.